Hey everybody, it is Friday, December 18th, 2020. We've got a lot of news to get into today. First, we're going to talk about the stimulus check update. It's not really good news, but there's still potential for a $1,200 check. Poverty is climbing up the income ladder, so now even people that consider themselves upper middle class are now falling down into the living to paycheck category, and depending on a handout becomes riskier. We're talking about risks to the system and the grid. Let's get into the first article here. And this one is out of the Hill. GOP Senator blocks bill to provide $1,200 stimulus checks. All right, no surprise, it continues. When it comes to getting checks out to the people, all of a sudden there's all this concern about the national debt and spending. Oh, we can't afford it. Unlimited trillions for the defense budget, market propping, corporate bailouts, foreign aid, you name it. Excerpt out of this article here. GOP Senator Johnson on Friday blocked an effort to pass a second round of stimulus checks, arguing that the relief needs to be targeted and raising concerns about the country's debt. Yeah, when it comes to giving checks to the people, now they're concerned about the debt. And I don't even think checks are the solution. It's just a band-aid on a broken leg, as I've said numerous times. But if you're going to continue to keep these bubbles inflated and market propping, and if you're going to continue the corporate welfare, then you have to also hand out checks to the people to accommodate the inflation and the rising cost of living that they are causing from the market propping. All right, and I hear from people down in comments, they say, JJ, no, that's socialism when you hand checks out to people. We can't do that. That's not going to help anything. I agree, but if they're going to have corporate welfare and market propping and continually causing prices to rise and not allowing deflation, not allowing markets to correct, not allowing the cost of living to go down to match the level of income for most American people, then you're going to see a big disparity and a lot of people falling off the train, so to speak. All right, people can't keep up. People are living paycheck to paycheck, and you cannot even send out a stimulus check to help these people. Absolutely insane, but really nothing new. Is anyone really surprised at this? But it's still being discussed. It's still being debated. Americans could get maybe not $1,200, maybe $600, including an extra $300 a week for extra unemployment benefits in the next stimulus, if and when there is a next stimulus. So I wouldn't hold your breath for this. But a lot of people are still looking forward to this and seeing what's going to happen, if anything. All right, recent MP article right here, Paycheck to Paycheck Nation, why even Americans with higher income struggle with bills. And it's not that complicated. The rising cost of living, inflation, rising prices are severely outpacing people's incomes. And that's if people even have an income left. The people that still have jobs, they're not getting raises. People had to take salary cuts, cuts to their hours, right? So if you're lucky enough to still have a job, you're lucky if you haven't gotten your hours cut or your pay cut. And this article talks about a family. They have two kids in college, no, two cars and two kids in college, and they remember a purchase that pushed them over the edge. It was a $600 amplifier for a bass guitar, and that prompted a big fight about budgeting versus saving, spending versus saving rather. And if you want to see for yourself the disparity between incomes and inflation and rising prices, take a look at this chart. This is out of the same article. NPR, we see wages down at the bottom, and in the last 20 years about a 10% rise. But we see other areas where we see over 50% increases. College education, the cost of health care, over 30% increase in the typical home price, and it's even worse in some cities. And it's happening across the board. There's very few goods and services and items that are seeing deflation. It's mostly rising prices. Right, the dollar's dropping. Over 30% of all money in existence was printed just since the shutdowns began back in March. Right, we are in absolute unprecedented twilight zone in the stratosphere insanity right now. And how much longer is this going to last? I still predict we're going to see some major impacts of this and some big fallouts here 6 weeks or sooner. I say by the end of January or sooner. No, it's not just because of the lockdowns. This has been happening for decades and decades. It's been a slow grind. It's been a frog in the pot where people over time got acclimated to just being in more and more debt and more people falling into poverty. Go back many decades, it was just a small fraction of the population that needed handouts. Then it became about half the population, and now it's even more, about 60. It's going to be 70, 80, all the way up to 90%, like we talked about in our previous video. All right, we need big changes. We need a big economic transformation, and just more and more people falling into desperation. Now, we're at a breaking point, so either something big has to happen, or they can try to keep kicking the can down the road, but it's getting to a point where it's getting more and more difficult. So what about the owners of millions of homes where people do not have to pay rent? Are they going to stop their mortgage payments? Are they going to stop their property taxes and property upkeep and maintenance costs? Right? You see what I mean here? This thing is snowballing into something so huge that it's going to be impossible to stave off for much longer. And that's why I continue to say we need a major transformation, because kicking the can is only going to last for so long. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And here is another NPR article. U.S. cyber agency computer hack poses grave risk. So think about a population like the United States, where most people are dependent on some sort of handout or some other form of government payment or government check, even Social Security. And yes, I know you paid in for Social Security for many years. In some places 30, 40 years over your career, you paid into it, and it's your money, you should get it back. Well, you paid it into a government that has spent the money that you paid in, and not only did they spend the money, they racked up an additional nearly $30 trillion in debt, and on top of that, we have 70-something trillion dollars unfunded liabilities that the government is supposed to pay out, right, and all of these benefit programs. Now imagine what's going to happen. Most of the people dependent on, let's not even say handout, let's just say dependent on some sort of payout from the government. Right? Maybe it's something you earned and paid into, like Social Security. Maybe it's something that you didn't pay into. But any sort of payout, they're just going to say it's gone. They're going to take your Social Security. They're going to take your unemployment. They're going to say the money's gone. We got hacked. We don't know what happened. We're investigating. But in the meantime, hundreds of millions of people are broke. And by the way, you still owe taxes, and you still have to pay for the infrastructure. You still have to pay for the schools, and you still have to pay to register your car. You see where I'm going here? This is a very dangerous system. And I don't think 1% of the population realizes what's actually happening here. And this could be a very dangerous country. I think it could be one of the most dangerous countries in the world, considering the level of dependency that we have in this country, the number of people dependent on a payout, and also leaders that are steering us right off the cliff. All right, everybody, I wish I had better news for you. Hope everybody's doing well. If you still have a roof over your head, if you still have food to eat, please be thankful, because it could happen to any of us. This is something that is unraveling, and it's engulfing a bigger portion of the population each time. And as time goes on, I don't see really much that's going to change the direction. If you let me know if you have better news, if you have a more optimistic outlook, please let us know down in the comments, because myself and a lot of people could use more optimism. And if you give me some good news, maybe I'll report on it. Thanks, everybody. We might see you this weekend. Stay safe, stay well, stay prepared. Until then, bye for now.